welcome to our planning, properties and speeding committee meeting and emergency planning, so I forgot about that bit. We should have open forum at the first 10 minutes, but as there's no members of the public, we'll go straight into the main meeting. So the first item of the main meeting is 031, which is apologies for absence.
Yes, Steve Lewis has sent his apologies and they're accepted.
Okay, thank you. And then 032 is declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of interest in accordance with the requirements of the Localism Act 2011 and to consider any requests for dispensations in respect of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest in agenda items.
No.
No. Okay. And 033 is to resolve to approve as a correct record the notes of the meeting of the committee held on the 27th of July 2022 and to authorise the chair to sign as official minutes.
Right.
Seconded.
Okay.
Well, today's date,
Yeah,
23rd of August.
Okay. Item 034 is clerk's report.
So I presume you've all read the clerk's report and the responses from Buckingham and the police regarding the speeding and the litter and everything. They both asked if we could be more specific on the roads, the times and who's doing it, and we've just responded to say that it's just a report from parishioners, no names, no roads, nothing has really been mentioned. Buckingham are going to speak to their employees just to remind them of, you know, to be mindful when they're going down the roads.
Did get a response, didn't you?
Yeah, they've responded a couple of times to them. And then the response from Graham Butler regarding the SIDS, I think you've all seen that, about just confirming the lamppost that Peter suggested. So that's okay. I've contacted Graham regarding the plates as well, but that's in the next, in the SID bit. And then the only other thing is a parishioner, former councillor, has funding for a community speed watch, and it's going to go to the on the full council agenda.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right. Okay, so item 035 is planning applications. So the ones that we have are not anything particularly.
I don't think there's any of
There's
us
nothing on there that we've got to make any major comments about. So if we can have a proposal that we basically don't send a comment.
Yes.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Yeah, I'll propose that.
Item 036 is speeding. Item 8 is to resolve to agree the locations of the SID for October.
So September's going to be, one's going to go out to St Mark's, either, I think on the school end, I think that's the one that they're more concerned about. And the other one is going to go, can you repeat that?
Was it Hallgate?
Oh,
Did I say Hallgate?
no, there isn't a
No.
plate in Hallgate.
Oh, Park Road.
Oh, that's Park Road, and we've got,
That's the one.
that goes 11, isn't
Yeah,
it?
so that's hopefully it's
Traffic
traffic lights
lights.
will go on.
So Steve and I can go and put a plate up because we've got one. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, it's Park Road.
Yeah, and we've got one spare plate left then, which can either go in Station Street or Church Road. Is it the old pub or is it
Yeah, the old exchange.
The old
the old
Exchange, yeah.
exchange that he's given us permission to put one there or outside the fire station?
Oh, that's a good place because people start to.
Has he agreed to number 39 in High Street?
I'm sure we did.
Yeah, because it'd be nice to get another one in the town centre
Yes.
again.
Yeah.
And especially if you can, it's number 39 where the road widens out.
It's, I can't remember which shop it's outside. It's before you get to the zebra crossing coming into town.
Oh, right, yeah.
There was a hanging basket on it, but there isn't anymore. Or there was
So that
last
one
year.
was okay.
So that one was
wasn't it?
okay.
Yeah, because that should be good, because that's the bit normally where they speed through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we did say last time that we would put one in town and one
In the
out.
village, yeah.
So if we put one in Park Road,
So for September it's Park Road and
St Mark's.
St
St.
Mark's,
Mark's.
and then for October, what, try the High Street?
maybe
on
the
High
High Street.
Yeah, High Street, and then...
Maybe if he's agreed to Watlow Drove,
Yeah.
then
Yeah, do that
I
one.
can put plate up down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there is a lot of speeding along that
I know,
area.
Mm.
there is.
Yeah, I think it's good if we've got two, then one can stay in town and one can go
Yeah.
out to the villages kind of, and then you tackle in both at the same time.
No, that proposed.
So just say that again, so we'll go for Holbeach Drove,
Holbeach
College
Drove
Drove
and
and,
High Street.
High Street.
So Holbeach Drove or Watlow Drove? So it's
Holbeach Drove,
College
yeah.
Drove, yeah.
Yeah.
So you propose,
Mhm.
Yeah, second.
Okay.
yeah. And item B is to resolve to agree to purchase the purchase of SID mounting plates.
They're evidently about, I think he said £55 each.
I'm sure we had the money in the budget for that, don't we? No,
I
there's-
know we've got some money for some bits and pieces, so as long as we've got the money in the budget,
Yes.
then if
Yeah.
we get as many as we can potentially get, I mean, how many do you think we ought to get? We needed another two really,
I
at
would-
least,
yeah,
don't you?
So we've got three.
Get
So
three.
depending on what we've got in the budget, if we've got enough to get three, then
Yes.
we'll get three.
I know we did have some money in the budget, I think, for the actual poles as well, which were quite expensive. So even if you use some of that for the
Yeah.
plates, which are going to be more useful, aren't they?
So three
So
plates.
three.
Yeah, I have asked him, like, do we get them from yourself and how much?
They're from him, aren't
Yeah,
they?
how much
Yeah.
what we need to do to get them.
Yeah, I'll propose that.
Seconded. Can we, does that have to go to full council?
No, it'll be about 150 quid when it's
Okay.
next
Yeah.
one.
So providing the budget's there, we can just get on with it.
Good.
And item C is to discuss the visit to Saturday Bridge by Graham Butler.
That was interesting. Very nice man, and he brought somebody else with him as well, who had the records for accidents that were reported to the police, and there aren't many because most of them are minor accidents.
Mm.
But the whole area around was absolutely littered with
Car parts.
car parts.
Really?
Yeah, there was a VW badge, half number plates, lights, bits of metal, bumpers.
I mean, that's evidence enough that
It is,
minor accidents are happening all the time, aren't
I
And
they?
it was made clear that was because it's been quieter there,
Yes.
and then it was mentioned, but we did that time, his figures were from COVID.
I
in
think,
the
I
COVID
think
period.
pre-COVID, which was, they'd had two
Yeah.
serious
Mhm.
accidents reported to the police
And
and
then not long
one.
after your meeting, there was another accident, wasn't there?
Yes.
So-
So his thoughts were, they can't reduce the speed limit,
Mhm.
they can't double white line it because it's a straight road,
Right, okay,
they can't put lighting up because it's non-residential.
yeah.
The only thing they can do is fix the sign coming towards St John's. It did work briefly, and it just flashes up
Yeah.
and just says junction
Right.
as a warning.
Mhm.
It hasn't worked for ages. I think somebody's stolen the solar panel off it.
What about the barriers and stuff? Because that
Well,
was a visibility
yeah,
issue, wasn't it, when you put it out?
It is on both sides.
Both sides, yeah.
They're not structural, so they could be removed,
Mhm.
but they're there to prevent people ending up in the water,
Yeah,
which does happen. I've seen one.
but would because are they the concrete ones, so you can't see through them?
They are concrete, yeah.
Yeah, so if they replace them with like metal ones.
If you
so
hit
they
those
can
at
see-
60 miles an hour, you wouldn't be alive when you hit the water.
No, so it's
Yeah,
half of one and.
but they
half
did
the
talk about maybe lowering them a little bit.
other. Mm.
And also, if you're coming out of what goes St Catherine towards the junction, there's a house on the left,
Mm.
and there's an overhanging willow tree
Mhm.
which hangs out onto the highway.
Mhm.
That he said, could we ask the owner
Mhm.
if they could
True.
trim it back, because it does prevent you looking. You can't see very far
The metal barriers that you have in the centre of a motorway, they're lower down, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you can see over the top of them for visibility.
Yeah.
But if they use them on a motorway, they must be,
Yeah.
sturdy. That would be better.
I mean, those
than
are,
having the
those are
concrete.
dangerous because, I mean, most barriers, like the ones on motorways, have a cushion.
Yeah.
A cushion on the end, don't you? So
Yeah.
if you hit it.
And a lot of when you're driving through mountains and stuff like that, the
That's what they have,
side
isn't it?
they have the metal
Yes.
bits that you have in the middle of the motorway.
Yeah.
So
Like that, aren't they?
yeah, but you'll be able to see over them, and that's the problem. They've actually created more of an issue.
I mean, they've just replaced a lot along the A14 near Bury St Edmunds, and they're only that high,
Yeah,
and they are very, very thin.
which would be perfectly fine. So I mean, it would be worth if we would contact them and say, could they look at replacing them with something that they can. And also, is it the one going towards Watford Way? When you look at the barriers, they don't curve around the actual
No, they don't.
river enough.
They're flat.
So if you flew straight over the junction, you'd still end up going in the dike, wouldn't you?
Mhm.
Because it's just the front bit, it doesn't go down the sides. So if the purpose is to stop people ending up in the water, then it also doesn't work, does it?
Well, I mean, the whole bank going towards Watford St Catherine,
Mm-hmm.
there's no barrier there. I mean, I've seen
No.
several cars go, trying to overtake, hit the grass verge, and lose control and go down into the water.
Yeah. That is the problem, isn't it? You've got this
So,
So they're going to fix the illuminated sign.
sign, yeah.
have they only just got the one?
Yeah, I did ask them if they could put one up on the other end
Yeah.
as well.
Well, it would make sense.
Makes
Because-
sense, doesn't it?
Again, coming from Holbeach, there are signs to say Staggered Junction.
Mm.
One of them is hidden behind
Yeah,
it's overgrown,
Yeah.
so you can't actually see it.
Mm.
One you can.
yeah. But surely is it not LCC's remit to cut back any bushes that are covering their signs?
That's what I thought, because it
It's
is
not
sideways.
for us to do that. I mean, I get the visibility aspect. If it's not covering a sign with the willow, that's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if it's covering a sign, they should be making sure that signs are visible.
Well, they go around cleaning them, don't they? So,
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think maybe if we can get some photographs of what they're like,
Yeah.
and then put together an idea of
Mhm.
things that we're thinking,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then send that through rather than
Bits
just
and bobs.
yeah.
What
Yeah.
about approaching the owner of the property? Again, you see, I would have thought to cut back trees on the junction would be LCC.
Is the
surely.
tree in the
It's in their garden.
in their garden? Yeah. I mean, the only thing you can say is we could write to them and say we've had a meeting and it was suggested by
Yeah.
LCC
I mean,
whether they could.
They're going to witness all these accidents
Exactly.
anyway.
I mean, we could do that, but I think if we create a bit of a wish list of
Yes.
things that we'd like to see,
Yep.
take photographic evidence of what is there now
Mhm.
and what we would like
Yeah.
to see happen to the things that are there,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and any improvements that we'd like, and then send the whole thing to them, because if they're budgeting, then they can start
Yes.
budgeting ready for, I mean, come nearly at the end of the year, when they get into April and they've still got loads of money left and they start spending like mad, and
They
maybe
do,
they'd
don't
like to
Well,
think that,
exactly. When
Yeah.
they start doing all the potholes and the relining and everything like that,
Yeah.
they always do.
yeah,
I'll take some more photographs.
yeah, that'd be good if you could, and then if we just concoct something, and
Mhm.
and maybe if we take some, if we can find the barriers that we're talking about,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and create a bit of a,
Yes.
Yeah. It's just those low metal barriers.
yeah,
isn't it?
I think that we have to be particularly clear as to what
Yeah.
we're asking for. Because that's,
Yeah. Here's a photo, that's what we need.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
And I think they should go, they're just on the ends at the moment.
It should
They
wrap around the
go
side.
around
Yeah.
the corner
Yeah,
as well.
I-
so actually, if we, again, if we create a bit of a,
Well, if you say
Do a
it does
map
the
of
end
what we-
and then it goes 2-3 metres down
Yeah.
each side of the river
Yeah.
to stop it,
yeah.
stop people.
So if we specify that, so if we come back with what we're thinking
Yeah.
for the next meeting,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and agree that we're happy with what we've come up with,
Yeah.
and then
Yes.
we can then contact them officially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, so item 0 through 7 is emergency planning. So where are we at now?
The gentleman turned up live obviously last week. He's emailed them yesterday to say that he can't do tomorrow. He's put forward the date of the 29th, which for 2 times on the last one was 12, informed him 1 o'clock would be the earliest. He's now said he can't do that, but could he do the 9th of September? But obviously
We're away.
both away, and I think it was that Friday was I'm not.
That's a Friday.
That's a Friday I'm
Yeah.
not in, because I pick the girls.
It's a non-starter.
Oh dear.
So shall I go back to him again
Yeah.
with
Go
another
back to
date?
him and just...
Is he not available at all between now and when we're going away, other than that day?
They're the ones who he suggested.
Yeah, but he's
So-
got, I would just go back to him and say, have you got any availability at all between now and whenever we,
What date do you go?
3rd of September,
3rd,
which is Saturday.
Was there much to be amended or altered?
Not, well, there's several things, but there was
We need to know the
nothing...
right way to do it though, don't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
And also he'll be
Radical.
dropping off all of his goodies again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if we can get it done beforehand, that's great. If not, if we go for the first available date, he's got after the
After
9th.
9th,
Yeah.
yeah. Either or.
Um, 038 is properties, and item A is to receive an update on the chapels. Haven't really got anything much to tell, have we?
We've got the response to them, and the agreement is going to go for full council, isn't it? Regarding the roofing
Yeah.
situation.
And then we have sent an email to the planning or the conservation officer, but have had no response, so we need to chase him to find out whether we need to do anything with regard to the list of building concerns.
And the roofing know that we can't make a decision until
Yes.
Yeah.
full council.
Yeah, they've had the email, they know that,
They're good.
and then we just got to agree whatever we're going
But they
to agree.
should be, I mean, it won't be long after that full council meeting when they'll be restarting their work again, won't it? Beginning of October.
So that's as far as we've got with that at the minute. I have been doing a little bit of research to find companies with regard to the windows that can repair the windows. So between now and then I'll contact them and just see if we can get a couple of them out to start giving us some quotes, so that at least we know what money we need to put into budgeting for next year.
Really, we need to have a phone conversation with
Planning,
what's his name, Greg
Conservation,
Watkins,
yeah. So that needs to happen in the next week.
and kind of discuss what we're thinking and whether that would be okay. I mean, I can't see any problem to it, but conservation and all that. Yeah, I think it should be alright.
So hopefully by next meeting we'll have a bit more to discuss around that. So item B is to resolve to agree to contact Holshbank Football Club regarding the shipping container, hedge cuttings and key for the main gate. So obviously after our meeting where we took a photograph and sent that through to the Crown's agent, they have come back and basically agreed that they are happy for it to be there temporarily, but no longer than 2 years.
When was it first installed?
Well, it's longer than 2 years, I believe,
So-
already. So I think what we need to be very clear with is that they are happy for it to be there temporarily, but they do require them to find a more permanent storage
Yeah.
solution.
I think, to be honest, if they said they're happy for it to be there for no longer than 2 years, if it's already been there for longer than 2 years, I know they haven't got the confirmation beforehand, but really they need to be looking for a new home for it immediately.
Yeah, well, that's what, I
No.
think if we make
No.
it clear that they need to be finding somewhere pretty
Yeah,
sharpish.
It can't stay any longer, basically. That's the crux of it, isn't it? It's already been there for its time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then the hedge cuttings and stuff, we need to, because I'm not sure whether that is hedge cuttings that they have done or whether it's hedge cuttings that have been dumped there.
Rachel seemed to think they were fly tipping, but I'm told that it's not. It's clippings that were taken from the hedge when they put the new fence up behind.
Right.
Okay.
There's a brand new fence on the roadway.
But they do
behind.
need to be disposed
So
of.
they need to
But
be
they are on
cleared.
fire hazard.
Yeah, so again, so if we ask the question, you know,
And I know
are they aware
previously-
of them and can they please remove them
and
because
dispose of
they're,
them.
yeah, because
Yeah.
they're a fire hazard.
Yeah, I know that they do have a burning licence down there, or I believe they do. That's what Rachel said, because they have previously burned for trimmings and stuff.
If they take them right to the bottom end of the field, it's not an issue, is it?
No.
No,
So,
exactly, because it's open fields, isn't it, really, around there, so. Yeah,
and then also
keep the main gate.
keep the gate because we haven't got one, have we?
Mhm.
So if our staff need to get into the field to do any maintenance or anything with the play equipment, they have to park on the edge
Yeah.
and then
Walk in.
walk in,
Yeah.
which is not ideal if they've got,
Has Steve got one?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, he can obviously get in and out
Yes.
because he needs to,
He does
but
the
we
roads.
haven't got one.
Mhm.
So if we can have a key for that, then that would solve a lot of issues. So are you happy with that, Karen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll probably-
If you
So
do your wording and then just ping it,
Yeah.
and then we'll just say we're happy
Mhm.
if you're unsure.
Yeah, no, that's fine. The container to clip the clip-ins and also the key.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll propose.
Item C is to discuss and resolve to recommend full council the window quotes for Primrose. So we are in our little box instead. Oh, right, okay.
That makes it any easier.
Full detail. Have a look.
38C.
C.
Yeah, because you've got one that is obviously a lot cheaper, however,
Which
they're
one
not for the same.
did you meet both of them?
No, I only met the second one, the more expensive one.
Okay.
Yeah, is that wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob Rowledge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's including for pretty much everything.
Yeah, so he's
Extensive
also
repairs.
including, he's doing more repairs, he's replacing the glass where needed and doing the laminated glass as well.
Glass isn't damaged, is it? It's just suggested.
It's, you know, he suggested doing the laminated glass
Yeah.
because the height of the windows
If
and
anybody would.
if anybody would fall through, but then they have been like that and existing anyway, so. But I mean, he's £1,200 per window basically with that, but he's quoting for 7 windows, so.
Yeah. And the other one's only quoting for 5.
So 1,200 times 5 is 6,000, so he's still obviously more
Yeah.
than the other one. But then he's quoting for doing more work, but it's whether they actually need more work or not.
Discuss.
So,
The other guy would be about £760 per window
yeah.
for what he's quoted for. So, pretty much really half. And
Does it all include the painting?
No,
Are these
it's undercoating.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, all new timber treated.
Primed, undercoated,
undercoated,
gloss
gloss
painted.
painted. So again, you've got that
Top
element.
sashes to remain fixed and bottom sashes to be openable.
Yeah.
So he's cutting back timber, replacing, yeah, so he's either cutting back to sound timber or replacing completely individual components, whichever is required for the windows, and then repainting them. So he is just basically doing a more
Basic job.
basic
It's not
repair,
doing the window, the glass or
and the other
anything
one's
like that.
basically restoring them to fully how they should be with new glass, etc., blah, 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 all this sort of thing. So it depends what you're wanting.
Are they recommended, either of these? Do we?
Both of them were recommended by a local tradesperson.
Okay.
So they are.
I
both-
know when we spoke to the second man, he'd done work on other listed buildings and stuff in the area.
Yes, I do know somebody in Foster that employed somebody locally to do his grade 2 listed windows, and he made an absolute.
Mm.
Ah,
He ended up having to replace them all.
I think that, I mean, we haven't got enough in the budget anyhow to do the second, the most
Yeah.
How much have we
expensive.
got in the
I
budget?
think it's, without looking, I think it was about 4.5, 5, I think.
So if the first guy was doing all 7 windows, based on his price per window, that should be 5,320,
Yeah.
roughly. I mean, it might change because it depends whether the
Why is
stack
one
of
quoting
windows
for
might
7 and one 5?
change. It was just when we met them, didn't we? I think we said
So-
slightly different things.
So
They
you've
might
got
have
5
total-
windows upstairs basically, haven't we? On the
Because
top
it's
floor.
also including the ones going down the stairwell
Yeah,
as
but I
well.
don't think he included, the first one I don't think
Included
included that.
those,
I
'cause you
think
got
he
the-
just included the ones in the top
And
section.
what about the
And then the other one
the
there,
other one?
yeah.
Got the one down the bottom as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, one down the bottom,
Yeah.
and then you've got
As
the
long
ones
as
at the
it's
top.
back.
Yeah.
And then you've got the, I'm sure one of them's only a small window, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And then you've got the big sashes.
I mean, really, yes, it'd be lovely to do a Van Davido's a wonderful job, but actually, in reality, is it necessary? As long as they're sound and they can open,
Yeah, I think the main
That
thing
is
is getting
the
them
most-
openable
yeah.
and the timber.
because
The glass is not the problem, is it? I
no,
mean,
it's the timber
yes,
that's
okay,
the
falling
problem.
through, etc. But that is how they are. It is
Yeah,
an old building.
Unlikely scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, and you don't, I mean, if it is existing anyway and you're doing repair work, you wouldn't have to meet building regulations unless you were doing new stuff, so.
so I would suggest we go with the cheaper option,
Yeah,
because that's also including your decorating costs, which means that, because I had budgeted for decorating this year, but that we now need the front doing.
Yeah.
but you
So-
budgeted for decorating and windows,
Yeah.
so we're well within the budget then, aren't
Yeah,
we?
we are, but I have had a basic cost come through for the decorating, and to do front, back, upstairs, downstairs
Yeah,
is more than what we've put into the budget.
well, I think to do the front, they would need redoing as well,
Yeah,
the decorating.
yeah, they do,
If
yeah.
you could get that done.
Yeah.
And then, do all the repair work to the rear windows, then you
And
pretty
then if
much
he's painted the rear anyhow as part of his quote,
Mhm.
then that's,
Yeah.
takes that out of the
takes them
scenario.
out, yeah, I'd go for the cheaper one then.
So we just need to look at our actual budget and work out what we can afford to
I
do.
have to find that, sorry.
I'll find it, thank you. I'll just go on the website, it's quicker.
Is
It
this,
was put into,
is this including VAT? It doesn't actually say.
it was VAT registered, that first one.
No.
Doesn't look like he is.
So it's probably excluded.
Oh, no, he is VAT registered.
Okay.
So is it including or
It
excluding?
doesn't say.
Doesn't
He's
say,
just-
does it?
But he's got a VAT number at the bottom.
But our budget will be excluding VAT anyway, so,
Yes.
that should be fine, so.
If we've got £5,000 in the budget, would what was left over from the repairs at the back be enough to decorate the front?
I need to double check what I've done. I'm sure I put some, or I allowed enough.
So you've got the
within budget.
redecoration of the exterior, you've got £2,000 in the budget. Replacement windows, so that was going, I'm sure that was in thingamajig.
In
Reserves,
reserves
wasn't
it
it?
was, yeah.
So you haven't got anything more,
No, it was just what we had in reserves.
so then I need a reserves policy. This is
I think the biggest one probably in that sheet, jumping up in the middle.
And then in reserves, is that for property repairs would be for your windows, wouldn't it?
I would say so.
6,800.
Is it? Is that? It might be. I don't know. I need to know. Probably need to talk to Joe.
You did have 4,800 in the budget repairs.
6,800. So we said. So so I think property repairs includes a 2,000 pod for
Other bits.
yes
Yeah.
I believe.
So you probably got 6,800 in total, including the window
Yeah,
decoration.
yeah,
So if this guy
is
It's
what
gonna-
he is.
is what he is for 7 windows, it's probably going to be about 5,320. Plus, what was your quote for redecoration?
I can't tell you that.
It was going over 2,000.
It was, but that was front, back.
That was everything, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So you probably should be able to get it all done
Yeah.
within your. But technically, in your reserves, you've got 6,800 plus 2,000 for redecoration.
But I need, yeah.
So you've got the money available. You just then have to make sure you jiggle with other properties if you need any more repair work done.
Okay, so we'll go back to the first one. And the priority, I mean, I'm not so bothered about the ones in the stairs if we have to forego those, but we definitely need that other one doing down
I
there.
know when we spoke to the second guy, the ones in the stairs can remain fixed.
Yeah.
They don't need to be openable.
So if you can come back and say that we definitely would like to go ahead with
But we just
what
want to revise
we just
a
want
few
to revise the quote to
things.
include
So
these.
include those ones, but they don't need to be openable.
Yeah, and
The rest
one
of
at the back.
them, yeah, and that one down there. But the rest of them need to be able to open at the bottom, not
Yeah.
at the top.
Yeah.
And basically what you said.
And then whatever we can afford to do, we do.
Yeah.
So if you can itemise the other two things, so itemise that window separately down in the
Stairs, yeah.
downstairs one, and the two in the stairwell as a separate entity.
So we just did the 5 upstairs?
Yes.
Right, okay.
So then at least we can cherry pick if we need to.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely get that one done,
Yeah, that's a priority.
because that is worse.
bad.
And it would be lovely to actually be able to open the window. And that's there,
Okay.
Right, so it was to discuss and resolve to recommend to full council.
Yes,
So
so
we're
we're
recommending
recommending that
first
quote.
Yeah,
If we can get a
Revised
revised
quote.
quote before that, we'll recommend the full amount. But
yeah, I think that'd be useful to get the revised quote. I'll propose.
Okay, thank you. Item D, to resolve to agree to contact Holwish Football Club regarding electricity and water supplies. It appears that we may be supplying them, which explains why our bills are so high. But we don't know for sure, so I think the only way to solve it is if we contact them and say, can they please clarify the situation? They may well be paying electricity on the clubhouse, but I suspect we're definitely paying it on the changing area
Yeah, we're
and
probably
the
doing
grandstand
the original
area.
bit.
The original, I think
Yeah.
we are probably still supplying.
Mhm.
So if we say that we believe this to be the
Well, it
case,
would also be interesting because if that supply is coming from our supply from the toilets, it's not a separate supply,
you know,
then obviously you can't run it as a separate supply and then pay it, if you see what I mean? Without
Right.
reconnecting it.
but we could do a
But you could ask
sub-meter.
them for, yeah, you do a sub-meter.
We can say that we will need to be asking them for a contribution because our bills are going very
I
high.
think, yeah, it would be useful to install a sub-meter in
And
there
look at putting
anyway.
in a sub-meter,
Just
if
to-
we get it confirmed that it is being used
I
by
don't
them.
know the football club, they have floodlights presumably.
Yeah, which I believe we may well be funding.
Yeah, we need to know what's connected to where, don't
Yeah.
we, really, and
So,
know what we're funding. And then, I mean, even if we can get a sub-meter installed, even if they then are not currently paying us for the electricity, at least we'll know exactly how much we are paying for,
yeah.
because currently we don't know, do we? And then you'd be able to work out on your bill what's actually happening.
Okay. So if we can just get them to clarify what they believe to be the case.
And do we want to get a quote for a sub-meter or not?
I think we leave it, let them come back to us first, and then we can revisit it at the next meeting. If you could ask them if they could please confirm what they know about the electricity and water supply to their buildings by the time we meet at our next planning meeting, so that we can discuss it. If they want to meet somebody down there, then that's fine.
Mhm.
So if we can propose that we write to them.
Seconded.
Item E is to discuss the recent meeting with the Bowls Club and their lease and resolve to agree a way forward. Well, they don't want a lease. So,
Somebody put that on my desk and I don't know where it's come from.
was
Oh,
the lady,
here.
was it the lady
And
that...
the door was locked.
Okay.
And Jan doesn't know anything
So-
about it. Is that the
I
cost?
think that's the
cost
yeah,
of
that's the
asking for,
costings.
isn't it?
I mean, in terms of their insurance for the actual bowling green, presumably that would be covered under our insurance for Carter's Park, because we insure the building, we
Yeah.
insure the Carter's Park, it would insure all contents within. So that should be inclusive anyway, at the moment. It's just the cost of maintenance really, isn't it? We need to cover.
Is that from the treasurer?
Yeah, I would say so.
So how
Yeah,
much
so
does it
it's on the
spend on
desk.
maintenance? Does it say?
Well, it does. It's got green maintenance, equipment maintenance and public liability.
Yeah.
And then they've also got a verbal quote for the fertilising, etc., that they normally do in September, which is £2,000 plus that.
But then,
I know somebody mentioned the amount for the scarifying as about 5.
but the amount of stuff we buy, spraying and stuff for all of our chemicals basically that we would use for all of our sites for the whole year doesn't come anywhere near £2,000.
Well, that's what it says there. isn't it?
Huge amount.
So it's ridiculous.
I think, I mean, clearly they don't want a lease. They want us to maintain the bowl screen. We need to do some research on maintaining bowl screens.
Yeah.
And we need to get our own costings
Yeah.
for that. And also then potentially include it in the tender document that's going out for grass cutting as an extra.
Yeah.
So that again, we can make a decision based on what
Yeah.
we know.
Yeah, that would be
So
very
it may be that our staff do part of it and part of it is,
Well, if you
Tender
include it in
for-
the tender document,
then we've got options.
then then you've got, because if you just say that that one is, we don't know whether it is, but could they please price for it? We've basically got several different options for the tender. And then, thank you.
Because when we've had a vague conversation, we haven't spoken in any detail with our staff, but there were concerns about the time, the amount
There
of
is.
time that would be needed for it, because when they are playing, they're cutting it about 2-3 times a week.
Okay.
But it may be that one of them is prepared to do that extra, maybe, we don't know. But we would need to work out the actual costs of
Costings are
doing
all
it.
over the place.
I know, they're weird, it doesn't make any sense.
The maintenance at the moment was done by the chap with the beard,
Yes,
wasn't it?
Yes.
It was a relative,
yes,
but
Yeah.
he's withdrawing his.
yes.
Well, it seems because their green maintenance this year, for some reason, is significantly lower. But then, like in 2013, 2014, it was the highest it's ever been, and then it went down, and then it's gone up again, and down and up and down and up.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem,
I think
it's
it
just
was
a bit back.
Slightly go up.
You would think it would slightly go up, but it's actually ended up going down, and then for some reason this year, unless they put the bullet point in the wrong place, it's completely different, isn't it? And then the equipment maintenance as well, some years extremely low, and then other years a lot higher. The only thing that's consistent is the public liability insurance, which
Which is neither here nor there from our
it
point
doesn't
of view.
matter.
They will still need public liability
Yes,
themselves.
But it doesn't actually say how much they,
Do we know how much equipment they've got?
Got quite a bit in that they've got a shed at the site,
Okay.
But again, if we're going to be taking on the maintenance, technically we need to own the equipment. So therefore, that's another thing that we have to think about. Is it worth us doing that? Or if you're going to contract it out, then obviously then it's down to whoever's
Yeah.
contracting it, they would have to supply the equipment.
So it's the green fertilising and the
Yes,
maintenance is
yeah.
£2,000. That's
Yeah.
not just the material, that's for everything,
Yeah.
for the whole maintenance.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say the quantity of fertiliser, because I
No.
wouldn't have thought it's a lot for that, is it really? It's a
No.
small bowling green.
But again, that's meant to be happening in September, so presumably they will do that because it's still under their lease. So we've got plenty of time before next September,
Yeah.
before we have to
But yeah, but
actually...
you would need to budget for it
Yes,
for
we
next
would.
year, so you would need
So
to know
I
by
do
January.
think maybe we need to look at, do a bit of research on bowls club maintenance.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
then maybe task our parks team to do their own research on it.
I mean, he did say that he would.
Yes, he did,
Oh,
and I'm
so
sure he
indeed.
would. But I do think it's sometimes better to find things out for yourself to a degree first,
Mhm.
before you start having a conversation, because
Well, we
else they
need-
can tell you anything and you don't know whether they're
We
telling
would
you
need
the
to
right
know
thing.
the
do you?
costings and stuff anyway, but if we put it in, because we need to know how much it's going to cost if we do it, and also the time, and will the parks team have the time. But then if not, we're going to have to put it in the tender and see if people would be willing to tender for that
For
as
it.
well. But if they're doing that as part of a bigger package,
Yeah.
you're most likely to get it cheaper than what you would have done individually.
So we need to know, we need to be able to specify exactly what we want within the maintenance programme, because there'll be
How
winter
it's going to-
maintenance,
Yeah.
presumably, because they won't leave the bowls green uncut for the whole winter, surely,
No, they won't.
because else it wouldn't be in a fit state to play on in the,
Yeah, so we
season.
really need to know how often you cut it per week.
yeah.
How the fertiliser, how much you
Yeah.
need,
So
timings, etc.
can we go back to whoever, one of the people that was here, and say, obviously, the person that's doing the maintenance now,
Can we have some
could he
details?
please do us a bit of a bullet point of how often does he cut
Mhm.
through the winter months, summer months,
Mhm.
what fertilisers and how often,
And the quantities,
so that we can
etc.
start costings.
Yeah, because that is your only real costing. Because when they said insurance, I thought they meant insuring the green, but it's public liability,
Yeah.
which is fine because that's not a problem, is it? Yeah.
And in the interim, we'll do our own bit of research
Mm-hmm.
and see,
Oh,
because
sure.
there may be courses out there, if our staff are going to need to do it,
The thing
there
is,
may well be
your
courses.
pricing as well, and also for our staff cutting it, the difference between cutting it twice a week and cutting it 3 times a week is going to actually be quite substantial when you look at it over a whole year. So if you don't have to cut it quite so often because it's not, you know, and you might just need to cut it when they have a professional match or something just to make sure, then that's going to be a big difference, isn't it?
But the problem is that once they leave in October, we then will be responsible through the winter months, so we need to be
Know
sure
what they're doing, yeah.
what we're actually taking on
Mhm.
in the winter. So the priority definitely is we want to know what the winter
The
schedule is,
maintenance
Yeah.
because else it won't be playable come
No.
the spring.
And once we know our costings, because we're treating the bowling green and the building separately now, aren't we? Based on what they want to do, then we'll need to start working out costings for usage of it to cover our costings
Yeah.
for both the building and
Yeah.
also the
So ideally what I'd like to do is have some form of proposal to put to them by November of what we would potentially be looking at charging them for
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
So that they know, because they'll be finished by then, so then they can start planning.
Well, we're agreeing, we're definitely happy with the situation that we would be maintaining and taking it back.
Well,
And
ideally, we would like to do that, but
That's-
unfortunately, you know, if that is not a cost-effective thing,
yeah,
or
but
we
if
can't do
they
it,
can't do
they're
a
not,
lease,
they're
then
not
we're
going to be using it if it's not usable.
well,
are they?
no, but if they're basically saying they can't do a lease,
Yeah.
they can't do any lease
Yeah.
whatsoever.
No.
So we're either maintaining ourselves and charging it out, or it's just a non-used bowls grip, either or. But basically, we're taking it back. That's
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah.
So we're agreeing, we're happy with that.
Yeah.
We need to get costings and work out the viability, and then go back to them with a rate at which we're charging per usage.
Mhm.
But in principle, i.e. what was discussed at the meeting, in principle, we're agreeing to
Yeah.
it, aren't we?
Yeah.
We just need to do the finalised details of costings.
I mean, it's in their interest if they're having professional matches there, and I think, was it Annalise? She's
Mhm.
very good
National
player,
level, yeah.
national level,
Mhm.
that it's in their interest to tell us how to
Maintain
maintain it properly.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be able to work something out, it's just then whatever, realistically, whatever it's going to cost us to maintain it, whether it's getting somebody else in or whether we're doing it ourselves, we just need to cover those costs from it. But if they've managed to cover their costs with their memberships and stuff like that up until now, then I'm sure we can manage to budget it and cover it as long as we've got enough people using it.
So, so the proposal is that we are happy to take back the maintenance of Bowles Green, and we will look into the costings and how to maintain it,
Yeah.
and come up with a formalised proposal
Yeah.
to go back
But
to
it
them
would
with.
be, one, to go back to them with, but also a proposal for anybody else who's
Wanting to
using
use
it,
it.
because it will be open to anybody.
Yeah.
on it.
So what was that last bit? To look at the costings and to look at like the charging our bid.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
charging, you do one cost for charging the Bowls Club
Yeah.
and one cost for charging anybody else.
Yeah.
I'll propose that.
I'll second that.
Okay, item 039 is town and parish survey, to resolve to agree the response to the town and parish survey. I did draft it because I thought it was easier.
Yeah.
I took on board your
Yeah.
comment, so yes, it just needs just one little tweak saying that,
I think it was where you said that the back buildings were
Yeah.
empty.
yeah, so we just need to
I
change
mean, they were
that.
until quite recently, weren't they? I mean, the bookies that was HSBC has only been there
Yeah,
6 months.
so we just change that sentence to some of these are still empty.
You've got Lloyd's and Barclays basically,
Mm.
so yeah, some of them are still empty.
And then other than that, we're happy with it.
Barclays has been empty for,
Yeah, but work is ongoing in there.
Oh, is it?
Because it is being converted.
But Lloyd's is the only one that nothing's happened with currently.
My daughter will shoot that down.
Ooh.
She goes round and what's her job? Not a nice job.
No. So we're happy with that, so propose that we send that off to them when it's amended. Okay. 040 is defibrillator, to resolve to agree to apply for funding from Chosen for the phone box. So we have the form,
yes, we have the form.
Yeah.
so. if we
I've got the
can-
figures, so I'll,
Would it be worth photocopying one of the forms just so we've got one in case
We need it for
we
anything
need,
else.
yeah, then we've already got it here.
I think we have to go back to lives again because the prices are going to have gone up since.
Yeah, just to get an
Yes,
up-to-date
it was about
pricing.
2,200, including VAT, so it worked out about 1,800. Claiming
So the
VAT
thing is
back.
that, you know, ultimately, if they don't want to fund totally, then
Yeah.
we're going to have to look at
Budget.
how and what
And then there's
we
the,
do.
the maintenance contract,
Yeah,
which
Mhm.
is 100 and something a month, I think.
it's quite, it's,
Yeah.
it's significant enough that we
It is.
need to think about it.
Well, the
don't we?
question is, what are we going back for asking them to pay for the actual defibrillator? Are we asking for the maintenance?
I think you ask for both,
And then
and
whatever
then
they
see
can
what they
afford.
come back with.
Yeah.
If they're not prepared to do everything, then we're going to have to
I mean,
look to budget, aren't we?
we now have 2 councillors on the she call them trustees, does she?
Not technically.
Not
are
technically,
they?
really.
A group of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
I know.
So if we get that filled in and get that back to them, say,
Propose.
Yeah. I don't think the increased cost will be that significant. I think we
No.
could round it up. I don't think it has to be
absolute.
an absolute.
So will you send me those
Yes.
prices then?
I will.
041 is projects for 23-24, A to discuss and resolve to agree a way forward with community speed watch.
That's now going towards full council, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the parishioners said that they've got funding from the district, but I think we just need to clarify exactly what funding, do we need to do anything, what, what's actually happening.
I suppose it's his own speed watch group, isn't it? So
Yeah.
wherever he's got the money from, it doesn't involve us.
No, but then I don't know why, do we need to support it, I don't know what I don't know.
I don't know, we need more
If
clarification.
it's independently funded by district council,
then
then,
it's not really anything to do with us, is
and
it?
also is it for specifically for one of the villages, is it for the whole parish?
And I mean, again, is it properly formally set up? Have they got the people already trained and ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, the
Or-
funding was mainly for the training and then you also need the device and everything
Yeah,
like that, don't you? So
I do remember Peter saying that, he suggested it to several people in Whole Beach Drove and there weren't the numbers
Yeah.
interested enough. And
Yeah.
I know Moulton had done the same.
Yeah, and also I suppose that from our point of view, if you've got a group and then maybe other people might want to join or they leave, etc., and you've got to train new people, you may have the funding now, but then who's keeping the ongoing cost of it?
Yeah, so
If
maybe
maybe
that
more
is what
training.
we need to agree to, that we would, pick
Continue
up
to
any-
support
yeah,
it.
continue to
But
support
then we
it
need to know
potentially.
what those costs are,
Yeah.
how much is already covered,
Yeah.
etc. How many people is that covering for training?
Yeah.
And all the details basically.
Okay.
But yeah, that's going to full council.
And then item B is to dissolve and to discuss and resolve to agree projects.
So can I have that other one resolved, please?
Proposed,
To-
yeah,
yeah,
so
to
just
full
get that
council.
for, you'll get the additional information
Yeah.
and take it to full council.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then discuss and resolve to agree projects for 23-24.
Shovels.
Yes, shambles.
Now, I think to be a bit hasty, we should just put a nice round figure of 50 grand in the budget.
You're going to be very popular with that one.
Well, it's like with everything. You put it in, then we're going to get the quotes to back it up and whatever, and to see what we're actually prioritising. But if we're roughly saying that, then we can start putting all of the budgets together and see how it's all coming together.
And then have a fit.
Yeah, and then have a fit, and then you reduce it down again, don't you? So
Is there
Well,
funding available from any other sources?
Very limited. I mean, yes, you've got the Heritage Lottery Fund, which is what they were doing,
Mhm.
but you have to jump through so many hoops to be able to do it. They've done their proposal up to
Yeah.
this point, and then they've changed the goalposts, and that's why they're not taking
There
any
are-
There's
further.
English heritage as well, isn't there?
Yeah, you have got
The
English
smaller
heritage.
funding pots, I would be interested to see whether Mary Bass or anybody like that who helps to fund churches
Yeah.
would be willing to fund that. I mean, the main portion of that 50 is going to be your windows in the best side for the wedding / funeral venue. And then you've got a bit of plaster to touch up, a bit of electrical work, and keep the floor as is, and then it's creating those shutters to keep the windows intact. But in the old side, I think you could look for funding in the future to do that, but just to make it usable, I would probably board up the windows with like the PVC corrugated panels, internal and external, the ones that have not got the nice boarding, because then you get some daylight in there, it'll be usable, keep the windows safe, clean it up, and then just use it as the exhibition space and bits and pieces. But I think we do minimal work on that side to make it usable, and then look to develop that further. But obviously, if you're wanting to have the other side usable as a wedding venue and funerals, you've really got to spend the money to get the work
What's
done.
his name?
Linden.
Has he been approached? Is he
Yes.
interested? Yeah.
I approached him some time ago, and he is very keen to have somewhere whereby he can,
Permanent.
yes, permanently have some sort of interactive display,
Well,
so
also
people can go
going-
and choose what they want to look at rather than him curating stuff.
Yeah, and having that digital screen with
Yeah.
all of his records on there would be very useful, because the idea with that side would be that you would have it open all the time, so everything internally needs to be vandal proof and externally. So you'd have to board up everything internally as well. But then people can pop in and, you know, view burial records, etc. and things like that as well, and then you can have exhibitions up. But yeah, I think it would be nice, but it's just those windows on the best side that's going to cost you majority. But then if you can't afford to do that, you could just renovate the other side and use it as an exhibition space for next year. Depends on
Yeah.
what we
So
can afford.
if we put in a round figure at the minute,
Yeah.
but in the interim we will start to get some formalised costings, because if we do want to go out for any grants, I mean, you have got small ones. You've got the wind farm one, which, you know, it's not going to be very much, but you could go down that route. But they will want proper costings. They will want to know that it is actually doable. You've got awards for all, which is, you know.
Well, I think the main thing is if you can get the quotes in for windows, that is your majority of cost. So if you go for your grants for that sort of side of things, I mean, you can get a quote in for touching up the plaster. I'm not sure whether it's actually lime plaster in that side though, because it looks like it's been redone
That's probably because it
recently, which again, yeah.
been done.
I mean,
It hasn't been
sort
done.
of luckily for us, it has been bodged previously, which means
Just cement.
if you're repairing it, then, you know, bodge it again. For the time being, but it would be nice to fully restore them eventually, but to get it usable, you just get it usable, don't you? But yeah, we can get some prices and then go out for grants and see where we go with it.
So, your proposal is we put in a round figure of 50, just so that they can start putting together
The cost,
budget.
yeah. And then
We
that
can
will
revise that figure, hopefully downwards.
Yeah, it will definitely have to be going downwards. But if you've got your money coming in from grants,
Yeah, it'll help
just
offset.
keep, you know, offsetting it. Yes, but
And there's nothing else that we can think of that we're likely to need to do for any other projects, really, is there?
it would just be that if you want to renovate the bowls club a little bit, but I
But
just
that
mean
would just
liquid
come out of
paint
the-
and stuff like that.
Normal budgeting.
Yeah, so we're going to have to look at our budgeting for all of our properties anyway, and stuff, aren't we? Because you normally put a lump sum in for repair and maintenance for others, and repair and maintenance for Coombo, but you really need to look at each individual property and what you want.
I mean, I suppose with the size of the parish, I don't know how much SIDS cost.
I suppose it's just the time, isn't it? Whether you've got time to have another third one, and is it worth it, given what we've been told about
Data.
the use of the data? It's pointless basically. You
Yeah.
may as well just put them up and have a flashing sign.
I do think you're either going to have a flashing sign or those repeater signs. I think they do work to a
Yeah.
degree, and
Yeah.
I do think buying more of those would be
Well, they're just
useful, because you can
signs,
put
aren't they?
them anyway.
Do you just mean the,
Yeah, just
The plastic.
yeah.
yeah, you do have to get permission from highways if you're putting them on lamp posts.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
But then if you had more of them, we've still got some in the.
we have got some.
I mean, they are termed as temporary fixments, so you're only supposed to leave them up.
Yeah.
Whatever is
Excellent.
deemed temporary.
Well, it's temporary, which I remember the county council, the chairman of the county council saying that 6 weeks.
Right.
Oh gosh.
The ones in Holbeach Drove have been up for
Longer.
a long time.
Yeah.
But yes, putting
I
those
think-
up, they're easy to
I
put
think
up.
if we allow, when we are budgeting, I think we do need to still allow a speeding, because
generally-
you're going to have to replace stuff, aren't you?
With your projects and stuff, you've got to allow, I mean, we've never really done it, but for every project, or generally, you've got to allow money in the budget for stuff of, if you think of something halfway through the year or 3/4 of the way through the year, deliver it. Because if not, you're like, oh, well, we'll wait for the next year, wait for the
I
budget
did-
again.
We did have problems with the older SID because it didn't work, but it
Mhm.
is working now.
So again, maybe we're going to have to allow
Some
a bulk just in case you need to replace one,
Yeah,
maybe. So we do need to look at that when we're putting it together.
yeah.
But
I
the
think
main
Chapels would be your
project
main
is going to
project.
be your main thing.
Yeah.
And then you really need to, we need to review all of the actual budgeting figures for the nitty gritty of your properties, etc., utilities.
Yes,
Because
that's
that
going to be a
all falls
biggie.
into.
We're going to have to really look at that and how we.
And
how
you
we
also
sort
need
it
to
out.
make sure that everything is budgeted for Jan and her organisation. And so it is all individual, because you would have a cost centre for each individual property, so the maintenance and repair needs to be for each one. Which also means you need to think a bit more detailed about how you're splitting it up and what actually needs doing, because if a property hasn't got any work that you think needs doing in the next year, then it can have a lower budget.
Yeah.
But you need a contingency just in case, don't you?
Okay. So proposal that we put in a nice big lump for the main project.
Yes. I shall propose.
I have to second.
Okay, right. That'll upset a lot of people, but
Yeah. Well, I will explain.
okay, so the final item is 042 to confirm the date and venue of the next PPES meeting. So, 2 weeks after full council.
Which is 12. So,
1, 2, so you're last week of September, aren't we?
So there's events at 2:30 on Tuesday.
Or do you want to do it straight after?
I'd be happy to do that.
Because then that gives Steve a chance to work during the day and then come in a bit later then, doesn't it?
So wherever you go.
You sure?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we, what, events normally
I mean,
take
events
us
should
about
take
an hour
beyond
and a bit.
What
So if
do
we
you
go
think?
for half
Half
3,
three, yeah.
Yeah.
It was Jubilee, wasn't it?
and then it shouldn't be too long after your finished time then.
No. 22nd September.
Almost winter.
3:30. Okay, so I will close the meeting then at 3